advisory, that's just timash.com. Info about the book we're going to be talking about, Primal Dating, is at primaldating.com. Very easy to find.
Excellent. So you're a second person on the podcast, because you actually came here and talked about your first book, which if you put up is.
Yeah, that's right. Unleash Your Primal Brain.
Yeah.
That was more of a kind of user manual for human beings from.
But they're kind of connected in a way, aren't they? Because
absolutely.
Because the Primal Brain one, again, is another book that I really loved, which is about why we do and think in certain ways.
Yeah, I would say that for me, it's all about evolutionary psychology. That explains so much. In other words, if we want to understand behavior, we need to understand psychology. To understand that, you need to understand the environment for which we evolved. So in Unleash Your Primal Brain, there was a chapter about sexes and gender differences and the big asymmetries, but I kept getting so much interest about that I co-wrote with the brilliant Dr. Limor Gottlieb the new book, Primal Dating. It's really not about dating, it's about understanding men's and women's asymmetries.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, what I really loved about it was that, for me, actually, there's been a whole bunch of what I would call loose threads in my life, which you that's why that happened. I get it now. And it's not, as you say, it's a great book if you're dating. It's also a great book as me, here I am in my later years. As far as I'm aware, I won't be dating for the rest of my life, which maybe I right, maybe wrong. I mean, my 87-year-old mother's got a new boyfriend and he's 80. So,
Go mom.
Never know. It's absolutely. But what I really loved about it was because we always think that life is logical, don't we?
Well, not me. I've been fighting that urge.
Okay. Well, most of us think, everybody by you, Tim, thinks that life is logical. But what we find out in the book, especially around dating, is that it's not logical.
Yeah, and it's not at all. I mean, we evolved in a certain environment for 200,000 to 300,000 years, and we're not set up for this current civilizational moment, and we need to understand really what we evolved for, and that's all subconscious stuff. And the drive to mate is one of the strongest life force on the planet. In fact, dating makes it sound like it's some kind of cherry on top of the sundae, and it's not. It's really, these are deep evolutionary, your genes screaming to reproduce into the next generation.
It's the only reason why we're here, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not
optional. What was the inspiration behind the book, Tim?
Well, it was, I think that right now we're in this very polarized moment, not just politically, but in terms of relationship formation. I realized how deep this rabbit hole went when there's just so much pain around it. I mean, people aren't getting married. They're not entering into relationships. They're not even having sex, much lower rates of having sex. So there's something broken in the way that we're approaching relationships. And so we wanted to just strip away all the cultural stuff that people bring to it. The gender wars, it's the fault of the patriarchy. You hear the feminists saying it's the red pill goblins are all talking about how women are trash. No one wins the gender wars. It just means the human race comes to an end. So we want to just say, hey, there are asymmetries, there are pressures from both sides. But if you understand the underlying biology and how we evolved, then we're all much better equipped to make good decisions about relationships.
Because you also say that we're running on Stone Age software, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
That has an important impact on our evolutionary instincts, don't you? So
yeah, so I'd go even further. I'd say, in a way, evolution has stopped. So you can take a look at the last 50, 60 years since the advent of the birth control pill and things like that, or you can look at the literally 10,000 generations that came before that were in a completely different environment. Well, guess what? We're not going to change overnight into brand new beings. We're still the animals we were running around on the plains of the Serengeti trying not to get eaten by lions.
Because because a lot of people think that the attraction is based on emotion or personal preference, but you actually talk about there's a science, isn't it, that actually drives attraction?
Well, I would say that yeah, there are three separate chemical systems. It turns out that drive that. One is lust, essentially. Like we want to do it with each other. Then there's exclusivity, lock down one person, and then there's kind of longer term pair bonding, so we can raise helpless children together for years or for decades, depending on if they boomerang back home. But those are basically chemical things. So when you say about falling in love, that phrase pretty much describes it. It's an involuntary chemical thing that happens with a certain person just standing in front of you at the right moment. There's no so any other notions of monogamy, soulmates, things like that, those are cultural overlays.
Because you also talk about how um, we make decisions on partners for certain reasons, and men make decisions based on certain aspects of our DNA, and
Mhm.
women make decisions on other aspects of their DNA. Um,
Yes, yeah.
and you also talk about the if we talk about females, you talk about the fact that women are often attracted to what would be called bad boys.
Okay. Well, let's unpack that. So first of all, you're absolutely right. There are massive asymmetries between men and women. Other species, you kind of look the same, you weigh the same, act the same. Humans aren't like that. I mean, men are on average 25% larger. We have 15 to 20 times as much testosterone as women. So there are obviously functional differences. And so men and women kind of co-evolve to get what they needed from each other, but it's very asymmetric. And not just across men and women, but also by life stage. Women get their power
Yep.
early, almost
Yep.
immediately, due to their fertility and attractiveness. And men have to work to both enter into relationships with women and to create a lifestyle that would be compelling enough for the women to choose them. So there's your evolutionary pressures. So both men and women have long-term and short-term selection strategies, as well as ways to attract the opposite sex. And there's tensions between them.
Because you make the you draw the analogy about here we are on Serengeti, and do we choose Steve, who's the person that is gone out and killed the deer, or do we choose Mike, who's the guy who's really good at creating the fire? because
Yeah,
because in both cases the options for raising children are kind of are good, because we've got one option who is a person who's obviously very good at going out and getting food, and the other one is obviously very good at basically creating the fire that we all live around. So they're
yeah.
both options for partners for us, aren't they?
Well, they're very limited. Imagine you're in a tribe of a few dozen people at most, so the number of eligible partners was very low, like two and a half probably, and you had to pick one, and your life depended on it. And unlike today, when we have 401ks and bank balances and houses to live in, back then you had to provide every day as a man, as a provider, as a hunter. You literally had to bring home the meat every day, or else the tribe starves. So you were women's long-term strategy is find somebody who would provision and take care of the woman and her helpless children. The short-term strategy, of course, like when women ovulate every month, they like more rugged alpha types. So that's kind of get the genetic side upgrade. So there are little side bets being placed. But generally, women were looking for somebody who'd be a consistent provider that was essentially competent.
Because you say, we have ultimately we have these we produce these offspring, which, as you describe, are it's not like other animals that produce offspring and they can get up and walk and they kind of seem to be semi um, alive, whereas we've got a baby and it's completely helpless. So
Yes,
what we're looking for as a partner is somebody that can actually provide, and hopefully will be basically stay around to support it as well, isn't it?
yes, because we are the most helpless animal on the planet. We placed this one giant bet on growing brains that could learn our surroundings from our surrounding culture. And our brains aren't fully mature till about 25. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to raise your kids that long together, but certainly they're limp noodles when they start out and they're absorbing all this cultural knowledge. And so you need a partner that's going to invest in you. And this goes for men too. Yes, they'll plant their seed as widely as possible, but once they choose to have kids with someone, they also want somebody that's going to be a good mother, and that they're going to stick around for a long time to provide for those kids. That's what that third bonding system I mentioned is for, that long-term bonding. That's to make sure that the kids turn out all right.
You talk in the book about dating apps, don't you?
Hmm.
And talk to us about the use of dating apps and how they exploit this primal wiring that we have.
Well, I'd take a step back and say, so again, evolutionarily different environment all of a sudden. So the dating market is not what it used to be. There are all kinds of distortions in it. One is that there are about twice as many men as women on dating apps. So that's a massive imbalance. The second is men approach women. That's pretty much universal. There's kind of three decisions in any long-term relationship. Men make the decision to who to approach. Women make the decision of whether to sleep with someone, and men make the subsequent decision on whether to provision or invest in the relationship for longer term. So the approach behavior has always been on the men's side. And when it has no consequences, when you can just swipe right on someone's profile, that approach behavior explodes. And so women have these full inboxes. They think that they're all tens and that they have infinite optionality, when it's not true. Men are just doing what men have always done, which is approach. And in this
Well,
case,
you just keep swiping, don't you?
yeah. It's consequence free. You don't even have the face-to-face rejection of being shot down. So
Yeah,
it makes it
because if you
even
throw
easier.
enough at the wall, something will stick, won't it?
Yeah, but then from an evolutionary standpoint, there's also something kind of huge imbalance that happened, which is women have designed men to take risks because they have to place their bet on that one best option that they have. That's called hypergamy. Women are always going to look for someone doing better than them. And that's a problem when 60% of bachelor's degrees in the US are awarded to women, and they're out earning men in major metros until they decide to have a kid. And so people that would have been good matches in the past are now essentially invisible to high performing women. And so that's making things very, very difficult. So right now, the state of play in online dating is women, especially middle-aged, highly educated ones, are pissed off. Most men are invisible, and it's only the top 5% guys, the chads, that are going to town and have infinite optionality. And they're not going to commit to any single woman, because why would they?
Because they've got an infinite option as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what men kind of pretty much everything men do is to have better optionality with women and better mating prospects. So they're never going to give that up. I mean, being a successful man is the same as being a young, attractive woman. You have to beat them off with a stick.
You talk a lot about the differences between men and women from an evolutionary perspective. How can understanding these differences create more empathy and better communication in relationships?
That's a great question. Well, I think we have a lot of things that are based on the evolution, but we put value judgments on top of it. So terms like gold digger, slut, Madonna whore complex, all of these terms, that all these are value judgments. But when you understand that there are, again, massive asymmetries between men and women, that they're long and short-term tensions in terms of their mating strategies, and that it's really, really different by life stage, then you start to have a lot of empathy. So part of what we're trying to do with this book is to peel away those cultural overlays and really say, look, if you look at it neutrally, here's evolutionary pressure, here is what it's designed for, and there's no point piling on your trauma and your judgments on top of it. That just makes things worse.
Yeah, you also talk about our unconscious drives. What practical steps can people take to actually recognize these primal instincts?
Well, I think if you look back at your own kind of relationship journey, either as a man or as a woman, you'll see a lot of aha moments in this book. And one of the things we do is we have the evolutionary psychology up front, how modern society distorts it. Then we have practical guides for men and women,
Yep.
and from the other's perspective. So Some of that's tactical, how to fix your profile, how to go on dates
Yeah.
and all that.
Like how to not to have a photo with someone with a hand on your shoulder and
Right, or big sunglasses and a baseball cap so no one can see your face. Yeah, perfect. But that's just tactical stuff. But a lot of in both the men's and women's guides, we also have insights and strategies, and those are really more like to understand the opposite sex and yourself. So they're not, again, about dating. This is a book for anyone who's in long-term relationships or even married. I've had plenty of married couples say they love the book and thank you, thank you. So it's really more like understanding the asymmetries with a lot of empathy and things you probably never thought about because we're so radically different.
So, based on your research, what are some of the primal red flags that we should pay attention to when dating?
Well, one of the, again, ways that they're distorted is, I think, women leading with relationship goals. Bad idea. If you say, I'm looking for the one, my ride or die, my last first date.
They've got to be called Brad Pitt. Is usually the yeah.
Yeah. So one of the universal advice we give to anyone in this book is unload the relationship expectations. Think about what you need and you can only get in an intimate relationship. Everything else, pickleball buddies, book clubs, same taste in music, those are not things you should be piling onto your partner. So if you want the relationship to succeed in this age when things are seen as optional, we're all self-sufficient, we all don't need each other, then stop overloading it with a bunch of wants.
So, if we go, we've been talking a lot about dating. If we move into actually relationships,
Mhm.
so many couples struggle after the honeymoon phase. What does evolutionary psychology tell us about sustaining passion and connection over time?
Well, again, the notion of lifelong monogamy or marriage till death do us part, those are cultural ideas. I mean, the fact is, as a species, we're not monogamous. We pair bond for a while to have kids together, but that can happen several times with different people in our lives. So, not assuming that monogamy is the base, the understanding there's really high triggers for jealousy as well built into us, and also not thinking about it. What's the best way to put it? Um, not beating people up for the very natural drives that they have. Again, this book is about empathy and understanding the perspective of the other gender.
And how do you see society has changed? The way that people think. Because I mean, as you said earlier on, there's a lot of people that are, in the past they wouldn't have had degrees, and now they do have good degrees and successful jobs.
Yeah, so again,
Now,
there are all kinds of distortions, and I don't know that I have a solution. I mean, pretty much every industrialized society has had a plummeting fertility rate that's well below replacement. And within our lifetime, we're going to see depopulation. It's already happening in Europe and China. One of the things we point out in the book is China is not 1.4 billion people. It's probably closer to a quarter of that post-COVID. So, birth rates being low, is going to have tremendous implications. A graying society, no business model that works to make the economy go without a bunch of young people at the bottom of a pyramid. It's no longer a pyramid, it went to being a vertical chimney, and now it's inverting, and it's an inverted pyramid with older people on top and very few young people. So that's the world we kind of have to get used to and prepare for.
so one of the things that you talk about in the book is the fact that um, men and women's kind of attractiveness changes at different times of their lifetime, and
Yes.
based on our inbuilt software in terms of saying, um, women are mostly attractive when they're young. I'm not saying older people are not attractive,
Yes.
but generally,
You're still pretty hot, Tim, and I love your haircut.
thank you very much. It's I'm a big fan of people without any hair, Tim. So and so that changes. So actually, quite often what we see, we'll see an older man with a younger woman,
Hmm.
and actually, you say that from a DNA perspective is actually quite normal.
Yeah. Let's pick that apart a little bit. So, in the book, we talk about crossing curves. So, again, if you look at large samples of people across all societies, you'll find that young women are the most desirable. They lose most of their attractiveness by the time they're 40. And men start low and are basically useless to women because they don't have the provisioning or the lifestyle they want, useless to other men because they don't know crap and can't help with anything. So, it takes men 20, 30 years to both learn how to enter into relationships with women and how to provide that lifestyle. So men peak at around 50. The crossover point's at 30, women on the way down, men on the way up. And after 30, men have a growing and permanent advantage over women. So you could say, oh, life's unfair to middle-aged women. You could also say life's unfair to really young men. And both are true. Those are just asymmetries that are built into our genetics.
Tim, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book. Do you want to hold up your books again? And
Absolutely.
I
So
guess they're for sale on Amazon, aren't they? So
yeah, absolutely. Or primalbrain.com is the Unleash Your Primal Brain, and primaldating.com would be about the latest book.
and as I would say with Primal Dating, whether you're in a relationship or not, I think it's a really good book. And I can understand why married couples have found it interesting because, as I say, it doesn't matter kind of what age you are. You've had some sort of dating journey, and for me, as I said, that it enabled me to go, yeah, that's why that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope this will open some eyes, pull off some blinders, and make people happier and more reality based. That's
And
our
if we
hope.
wanted to get hold of you, you're on LinkedIn, aren't you? You're pretty active
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
LinkedIn.
Just the easiest way is just timash.com. You can just go to my website and reach out to me through that.